Welcome back to our video series. We're going to pick up with the Tower of Babel. So we've got pyramids around the world, also called ziggurats, found in many parts of the world: Mesopotamia, Egypt, South America, structures in Egypt, China, and some photos of them. You can go on Google and find a whole bunch of pictures from Central America, South America. On to our next slide here, and we're tying this in to the Table of Nations in Genesis, and specifically Genesis 10 and 11. We've got Noah with his three sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham, and we're going to take a look here at the Tower of Babel location, because after the ark, they built a tower instead of following the Lord's instructions to fill the earth. They decided to group together in one area, and it was in the plain of Shinar, and that literally means between two rivers. The two rivers, large rivers mentioned in Genesis after the flood, include the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers. Now, if you place Shinar in between those two rivers, that would be where modern day Babylon is. And Babylonia, or Babylon, has an interesting word in the beginning of it that is Babel, or Babel. And it's the word we use today for babbling when the things that someone is saying doesn't make any sense. It's also the word we get baby, because babies babble. And the city of Babylonia, in Hebrew the word is Babel, but in Greek it's Babylon. So we take a look here at some of this information. Between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers is a region known as Shinar. And in the Bible, there are 8 times in the Old Testament it says that it occurs. So just going to read a couple of them. In the beginning of his kingdom this is referring to Nimrod, Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar is where he began his kingdom with these 4 areas. Now, I want to own up to I made a mistake. I was thinking of Iraq, which is pronounced Iraq in the first video that I did. Excuse me, it's pronounced Iraq. And Iran is pronounced Iran. Now, the interesting thing about those two names is, one, this first country, Iraq, is very similar to the way that the people in Iraq pronounce Iraq. And if you go to the Table of Nations, Iran, their ancestor, is Elam. And if you go to the country that we were just talking about, the people of Iraq pronounce it Iraq, and it's Eric, who is the possible son of Nimrod, who the city is named after. Now, also, there's a possibility if we go a little further on, each of these 4 cities could have been a name of a son, but they had meanings to these cities. Like a little further on, we can cover that. But Nimrod, these are the 4 initial areas of his kingdom. And also it came to pass as they moved eastward, or journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, depending on the translation, eastward or from the east, and they dwelt there. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, and these other kings. So this is a known area. And then, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand. In a little further on, it says he carried into the land of Shinar. So when Israel and then Judah were taken into captivity as the Babylonian kingdom invaded Judah. First, Israel was taken captive with their partners, the Assyrians, and then afterward, Judah, the southern kingdom, was also taken into captivity because of idolatry and disobedience to God by the Babylonians. Babylon, it says in Daniel 1:2, brought them to the land of Shinar, which again is in Iraq, and it lines right up with Babylon as between those two rivers. And then another reference in Zechariah. These definitive references make it clear the Israelites knew the location of Shinar and they were deported there. Now, as far as Ararat, after the flood, the Bible says they landed in the mountains of Ararat, is where the ark came to rest. And they have a good point right here, some interesting reading, that it was named not before the flood, but after the flood. And the people who are still in that region are the Urartu people. And in Hebrew, there originally were no vowels, and it would be spelled RRT. Now, Ararat, RRT, you would put the vowels in saying but not written. So, Arat, Ararat. You could do that with two A's inserted right there, and very similar. And as language to language, there's something we didn't get into right here, but is very important, is that how language over time changes, and from generation to generation even. You have just instances of Shakespeare. When you try and read Shakespeare right now, 90% of it might seem like confusing. What is he even trying to say? Is he even speaking English? But that was the common people's language at that time. It wasn't written for high royalty. It was written to a very base language of people at that time. It was the common speak. You can also look at Australian. You can look at English, American English, the differences between Southern America versus local terms in another area of the country, from west to east or north to south. Slang in dictionaries, as the language develops and changes, the youth in one generation might have a term of something meaning one thing, where the youth in the two generations previously, it meant something extremely different. So as the language changes, this goes back to at the Tower of Babel. Because of disobedience, God confused the language in caused them to do what he wanted them to do, which was to fill the earth and not do the opposite of disobedience, of grouping together. And jumping back to where we're at here, Jewish historian Josephus points out that the Armenia, and hence the Urartu people, are descendants of Hul, the son of Aram, the son of Shem, the son of Noah. Moses uses the earlier name. The current people are in Armenia, direct descendants of Hul, son of Aram. Let's see. I think I needed to scoot this up just a little bit so it could be on the screen. Um, Again, Arat, similar to Eric, similar to Iraq, um, and maybe this is where the term, I was thinking about it, that the term erect to make a building or tower comes from, very likely. Um, some additional information, not information, but additional sources of where some of this information was coming from. Now, onto a very exciting thing right here, which is skipping to the Greek, tying, going back 2,000 years from where we are to the Roman times, when Jesus was born. We can clearly say, hey, what all the Greek names of countries are. Now, what we're going to do is skip on to where Josephus, 2,000 years ago, for Rome, translated a lot of Greek locations, tied them into their former names as they were 1,500 years prior to him, from the time that Noah and his descendants spread out, landed from the ark, and then his descendants spread out through the earth. Now, the time frame that we're really looking at here, if we go back, is that Noah was 2,000 years from Adam, 1,500 to 2,000. There was the flood, and then Noah lived until the year 2006, from when the day when Adam was created. Now, his descendants after him, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their children. This is the line of Shem's family, traces to Abraham and then on to David and on to Jesus. Is you could see that the amount of time that they lived, and we're going into just after the year 2000. So the first 2,000 years of Earth's history are around from Adam to Noah's lifetime. After that, we're talking another 2,000 years, where the names of these kingdoms begin to develop and take root on our maps. And then we have the kingdoms of Egypt, Babylon, Persia. We have Rome, where as those nations change hands, some of the names also change. And we're going to take a look at a couple maps too, but I'm going to start off by taking a quick look at some of the names that go from ancient to Greek. So on our list of the table of nations, you're going to see these names and then what they are in Greek. So you can look at the maps and say, oh yeah, that is from so-and-so. So Gomer is the Galatians or the Gauls. Now, you also have to remember that sometimes people had an area of land, or were in a couple different areas. For example, Japheth, living as long as he did, didn't just stay in one area, but he and his descendants traveled and spread out through a wide area of land. Predominantly, Japheth has areas named for he and his descendants across Europe. Gomer, again with the Gauls, Magog, the Scythians, Madi, or Madai, the Medians, also called the Medes by the Greeks. Javan, Ionia, and all the Greeks are from his name. Thobel, or Tubal, are the Thobalites, who are now called Iberes, like the Iberian Peninsula. Masochani, or Moshek, or Meshech are the Cappadocians at that time, and in the city there is a Mazacah. So you look at Moscow, you look at even study of history in these areas, these names are definitely truly connected. Thyris or Tyrus, the Thracians,